This is video 2 of my camp chef stove system for my RV. In this video we will go into more in depth of the individual components that make up my system. If you've not seen video 1 where I describe the overall system, I encourage you to watch that first, and I'll provide a link for that here. And as you can see here, I have each component in its own individual storage bag, so I can pick and choose which components I want to take for the camping trip. As I said in the first video, I will not carry all the different components at any one time. I'll just take what I think I will need for that week. And I found a short extension hose so that I could locate the Camp Chef stove a little bit further away from the RV. I also need to point out that the feedback that I received from my first video, it was unclear to some that I was powering my Camp Chef system off of the RV's propane system. And as you can see here, yes, I'm using the RV's propane system to connect to the Camp Chef stove. And of course the main stove sets up instantly almost. It only takes just a couple seconds to take it out of the bag and attach the legs. And we've placed the barbecue smoker box on the stove so that we can cook some ribs. We started our grill and we're going to wait until the box gets up to about 250 degrees. And we've prepared our ribs like you normally would. You take the membrane off, put some mustard on it and some dry rub. I've got the grill about as low as it'll go. It's in the warm position and we're about 250 right now. And we're using hickory pellets that we've soaked for a few hours. And I'll have to tell you, in retrospect, I think from now on I will start using wood chips because they will last longer. So now we'll go get our ribs. We're getting some good smoky smell out of here. And my youngest son will be supervising today. He is an accomplished chef.
Okay, there you go. Boom.
So the ribs are on, and we'll just have to wait and see how long it'll take. Just low and slow is the name of the game. About 2 hours after we started the ribs, a thunderstorm came along, and gusts of wind kept blowing out the flame. Plus, it would cause the flame to shoot out through the front of the valve. And I finally fixed that issue by erecting the tarp over both the grill and on the front side of the grill so we were out of the wind. And here are the ribs, all nice and done and tasty. It took about 3.5 hours cooking time, so in the order of ribs, that's pretty fast. And I'm not going to go into the details of how I cook these because most people are proud of their own ribs, so you probably have your own cooking preference to begin with. And so our next step is to try the griddle to make some breakfast. Unfortunately, the griddle is fairly warped. And I'm judging it from this machined surface of my cast iron table saw. And you can see we're off quite a bit. So I'm going to return it to Amazon because this is warped just way too much. Well, we're going to make some pizza in our new oven. And you may have seen me make pizza before, and I used a thin crust that was from the grocer's cold case. Well, I couldn't find it. So I bought this pre-made crust. I don't know how well it's going to turn out, but we're camping, right? So we don't want to spend a whole bunch of time making our own crust. And we have pepperoni, some mushrooms, onions, and we'll make it right here. The instructions do say that the top will get hot faster than the pizza stone. The thermometer will measure the heat in the top, but eventually those two temperatures will even out in equilibrium. And that's what takes 15 minutes. And we're up to about 400 degrees. And there seems to be a lot of heat coming out of the front of this. It's just boiling out. And I've seen some people make their own covers for the front of the oven. I don't know if it's necessary or not, but it might be something to look into. Well, I think our pizza oven is up to temperature. And I really can't use this very accurately because the emissivity is wrong. This is a 0.95% emissivity, which means that it really works on black surfaces. Highly reflective surfaces and light surfaces, it's going to give a different reading. And if you don't understand it, I invite you to watch one of my 5 things where I discuss the emissivity of these IR thermometers. But see, we show 108 degrees, and well, we're showing 500 degrees here. So the reflective surface is way off because we're showing about 425 or so. And we probably want to put that to the back if we can. We should have pizza in about 10 minutes. I found this hamburger flipper, and it really helps with this. And we can look under it. Here's the first pizza that came off. Take a look at it, and looks done about right. We're also going to use the oven to make a peach cobbler. If you've never made a cobbler, it is so simple. 3 ingredients: peach pie filling, cinnamon, and yellow cake mix. You just throw them all in the pan, throw it in the oven. 40 minutes later, you got a cobbler. We also made some cherry Mountain Dew cobbler, which uses the same cake mix along with cherry pie filling and then mixing Mountain Dew into the batter. If you've never tried it, it's really great. Hooray! The replacement griddle has arrived. Unfortunately, it's warped too. And I have to believe that the stovetop is level because all of the other accessories lay flat. And I also have to believe that my table saw is flat too because it's a machined piece of cast iron. So I contacted Camp Chef directly and they said they would send me one from their stock. Camp Chef also makes this reversible griddle, which is a cast iron version of the steel one they had. And I originally was not going to buy it, but in order to try to make a good system, I'm going to go ahead and try it out. And when we put this top on, sure enough, it's flat. So enough talking. While this seems to be a very versatile grill, the only downside is that there's no drain hole for the grease. So if you cook bacon, for example, you'll fill that grease trough up and you'll have to let it cool down before you can dump it. Well, finally, the grill has arrived from Camp Chef, but unfortunately, like the other two, it is also warped. On the side of the grill, there's a gap there, so I can take one of these mending strips. This is a 2" by 1/2" inch mending strip. My plan is to use some hardware to attach this mending strip through this slot so you can slide it up and down, and then we'll cut this off to the point that it needs to be. And I cut this off, and I do have the tailing left over, which we'll use as well. I'm simply going to put this in here, put the tailing behind with a nut, and we may have to readjust this once we get it on the grill so that we get this bracket in the right spot. And you can see now I have no wobble at all. Just a little bit, but that's fine. So let's cook some burgers on my newly repaired griddle. And one of the original reasons I even bought this thing was originally I wanted something for my Discata to fit on. And it does. It fits on there perfectly. The advantages of the Camp Chef system are that it is a multi-purpose system. You can bake, broil, smoke, cook, fry, virtually anything you want to do. And it can use third-party tops, including a Discata, Dutch oven, broiling pot, and so on. You can power it straight from the RV, and so you don't have to take a 20-pound tank with you. And the stovetop can reach 600 degrees or more, so things like searing steaks are simple. And for disadvantages, the warp griddle is probably the main one. And at this point, I can't recommend that particular accessory. I would instead encourage you to buy the combination griddle, that is the cast iron version, and that one's not warped. And that's too bad because otherwise this is a fantastic system. And while it can reach the cooking temperature fast, it's maybe too powerful. And when you have to use low temperatures, say around 200 degrees, you're almost turning it off. And then it becomes kind of sensitive to the wind, so you may have to have some protection from the wind if it's a windy day. And finally, cost. If you bought everything like I did, you're going to spend close to $600. It just depends on what you want. If you only need just a couple things, then of course it's going to be less expensive. Unlike the Blackstone grills, you can't buy these at Walmart, so you typically have to go to a camp store, which can be more expensive.